A fish in the darkest part of the ocean has no shadow. That sounds impossible, but it is completely real, and scientists only cracked the full secret in 2024. Most people think bioluminescence means glowing to attract a mate. Most people think those blue-green lights deep underwater are just nature showing off. Turns out, both ideas are wrong. The real reason is stranger, smarter, and far more unsettling than attraction. These creatures are performing an optical trick so precise that engineers are now reverse engineering it for military use. Stay with this, because the deeper we go, the weirder it gets. Start with a simple image. You are a shark. You are hunting from below. You look upward toward the faint surface light. Every animal above you casts a dark silhouette. That silhouette is a target. Every fish that swims in what scientists call the twilight zone, between 200 and 1,000 meters below the surface, faces this exact problem every single day. The water at that depth is not black. It is a pale, dim, cold blue. And every creature moving through it casts a shadow downward. That shadow reads to predators below as a clear meal announcement. So some fish evolved a solution. They produce their own light from their belly. Not to shine, not to signal, but to match the exact brightness of the water above them. The zone where this happens sits between 200 and 1,000 meters deep. Scientists call it the mesopelagic zone. Others call it the twilight zone. It covers more of the Earth than all forests and deserts combined. The trick is called counter-illumination. The fish measures the light coming from above. It then produces light from its own underside at precisely the same intensity. To any predator looking upward, the fish simply vanishes. No silhouette, no shadow, no target. Just empty water. That sounds impressive already, but here is where 2024 changed everything. Researchers had known counter-illumination existed for decades. What they did not understand was the control system. How does a fish with no eyes on its belly know the exact brightness to emit from below? How does it keep that calibration accurate while swimming through changing light layers? A 2024 study published by marine biologists from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution revealed the answer. The fish uses a distributed network of light-sensing cells embedded directly in its own skin. Not eyes, not a brain-processed signal. The skin itself reads ambient light and adjusts glow output in real time. The response time is under 3 seconds. A city traffic light takes longer to change. Now consider the scale of what is happening down there. The twilight zone covers roughly 330 million cubic kilometers of ocean water. It is the largest living space on Earth by volume, and the vast majority of creatures living in it are performing some version of this shadow-canceling trick. Estimates suggest that 70 to 80% of all deep-sea fish species produce their own light. Not 10%, not a handful of rare exceptions, most of them. Bioluminescence down there is not a novelty, it is infrastructure. And the variety of ways these animals use light is the part that flips every assumption you had walking in. Take the hatchetfish. This creature looks designed by someone who read too many nightmare manuals. It is flat like a hatchet blade, silver, with enormous upward-facing eyes and a row of light organs called photophores running along its belly. It is one of the most successful counter-illumination specialists alive. The hatchetfish grows to just 7 centimeters, smaller than your index finger. It is tinier than most kitchen utensils, yet it has one of the most precisely tuned light control systems of any animal on the planet. The photophores on its belly can individually adjust brightness. Each one operates semi-independently. The result is not a flat glow, but a graduated light map that mirrors the natural light gradient in the water above. Scientists who first measured this thought their instruments were malfunctioning. Most people think deep-sea creatures are strange, slow, weird-looking exceptions. The truth is colder. These animals represent the dominant life strategy on Earth. There is more animal biomass in the mesopelagic zone than in all the world's surface oceans combined. One estimate puts the total biomass of mesopelagic fish alone at 1 to 10 billion tons. The entire global fish catch harvested by humans every year is around 80 million tons. The twilight zone holds orders of magnitude more life than all the fishing fleets in the world have ever touched. And almost all of those animals have light built into their bodies. Here is a fact that should stop you mid-sentence. Some of these creatures do not generate their own light at all. They borrow it. Certain deep-sea fish eat enough bioluminescent plankton that the chemicals responsible for glow accumulate inside their tissues. The fish absorbs the light machinery from its food and repurposes it inside its own skin. The fish did not evolve the system, it acquired it secondhand through digestion. Researchers confirmed in 2023 that at least 3 species of deep-sea fish show acquired bioluminescence through dietary accumulation. They are not born glowing, they eat their way to invisibility. Now flip the question. If counterillumination makes a fish invisible from below, what about from above? Predators hunt from multiple angles. A fish that vanishes downward still needs to survive a threat coming from the side. That is where the story gets genuinely surprising. Some species in the twilight zone switch their light output depending on the angle of threat. They use a different photophore array on their sides compared to their belly. The side-facing cells do not mimic ambient light. Instead, they produce a disruptive pattern that breaks up the outline of the fish's body. Not camouflage, not transparency, not mimicry. Active outline disruption using real-time light output. The fish runs 2 different stealth systems simultaneously. Here is the comparison that makes engineers pay attention. Modern stealth aircraft use a principle called edge alignment. You shape the aircraft so that radar waves bounce away from the source. The F-117 Nighthawk, first flown in 1981, used this approach. Engineers spent decades developing the concept. These fish have been running an equivalent biological version for roughly 150 million years. The mesopelagic ecosystem as we recognize it today was already mature during the Cretaceous period, when dinosaurs still walked on land above the shoreline. The fish did not borrow the idea from engineers. Engineers will be borrowing it from the fish. But wait, there is still the unresolved question. The 2024 discovery was about the control system. Scientists confirmed the skin reads light directly. But that revelation opened a second puzzle, and it is the one that researchers are still sitting with right now. If the skin reads light and adjusts glow output automatically with no direct brain command, how does the system handle conflict? What happens when 2 light sources send contradictory signals to different parts of the skin? Early lab tests showed something extraordinary. When conflicting light signals hit the belly of a hatchetfish from 2 angles simultaneously, the fish produces a blended output. Not a panicked random glow. A mathematically averaged response across the photophore array. The skin was performing something close to local computation. One researcher described it in the study documentation as distributed optical processing. The phrase means the skin solves a light averaging problem without sending the question upward to the brain. Each photophore cluster handles its own local data. The result propagates smoothly across the body. This is not reflexive twitching. This is information processing, just not centralized. Now pan out further. Counterillumination is one tool. These creatures use others. And comparing them reveals something about the extreme creativity of deep ocean evolution. The anglerfish uses a dangling light lure to draw prey toward its mouth. The firefly squid creates a full body light display that can confuse rather than hide. The cookie-cutter shark has a dark collar that mimics a small fish silhouette, tricking larger animals into swimming close enough to bite. Each of these strategies is about deception. But counterillumination is not deception in the classic sense. It is erasure. The animal removes itself from the visual field entirely. The cookie-cutter shark, despite being only 50 centimeters long, has bitten chunks from whales, dolphins, submarines, and even the rubber coating on nuclear warheads. Its shadow collar trick draws massive predators toward it. Then it pivots and takes its chunk before escaping. The small animal does something the large animal cannot. Size means nothing in the twilight zone. Back to 2024. The Woods Hole finding was not the only major mesopelagic discovery that year. A separate research team studying light organs in deep-sea squid found that some species control the polarization of their bioluminescent output, not just the brightness. Most animals cannot detect polarized light. Humans definitely cannot with the naked eye. But a predator that can detect polarization would see a difference between the squid's emitted light and the natural ambient light from above, even if the brightness matched perfectly. The squid solved that too. Certain squid species were found to produce counterillumination light that matches the polarization signature of surface light, not just its intensity. This is a second-order camouflage system. The brightness matches. The polarization matches. To a predator equipped to detect both, the squid still does not exist. Scientists had not even been looking for polarization matching. The discovery was accidental, found during a different experiment measuring something else entirely. That accidental discovery pattern keeps repeating in deep-sea research. The ocean covers 71% of the Earth's surface. We have mapped less than 25% of the seafloor in any serious detail. The twilight zone has been actively studied for decades, yet 2024 produced fundamental new findings about mechanisms we thought we understood. The first live giant squid was filmed in its natural deep-sea habitat only in 2019. For centuries, it was known only from dead specimens and whale stomach contents. A creature longer than a city bus lived invisible in the ocean until 8 years ago. That context matters because it means the counter-illumination system we think we understand now may have additional layers we have not yet detected. Here is the number that puts everything into perspective. The twilight zone alone is estimated to absorb and process roughly 10 billion tons of carbon per year. Marine biologists call this the biological pump. Every night, trillions of small mesopelagic animals rise toward the surface to feed. Before dawn, they sink back down, carrying ingested carbon deeper into the ocean. That daily migration is the largest movement of biomass on Earth. It happens every single night, across all oceans, simultaneously. And it is driven almost entirely by animals small enough to hold in one hand. This daily commute of tiny creatures is one of the primary mechanisms regulating the amount of carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere. These fish, these squid, these shrimp, these glowing specks in cold, dark water are helping stabilize the climate of the planet. Which leads to the part nobody wants to say out loud. Climate change is warming and acidifying the ocean. The twilight zone is responding. Water temperature shifts affect the depth boundaries of the mesopelagic zone. That changes the light environment, and that means the calibration system that makes counter-illumination work is being tested against conditions it did not evolve for. A 2022 modeling study estimated that if ocean warming continues at its current rate, the twilight zone could shift upward by as much as 30 meters by 2100. That may sound small, but the light gradient in this zone changes dramatically over every 10 meters. A 30-meter shift is a completely different visual environment. Animals tuned to a specific light regime for millions of years will face a new light regime in less than a lifetime. But here is the honest truth. Scientists do not yet know what that means for counter-illumination. The 2024 skin sensor discovery showed that the system is adaptive in real time, within seconds. Whether it can adapt across generations fast enough to match shifting ocean conditions is still an open question. That question does not have an answer yet, and the reason it matters is not just for fish. If the biological pump weakens because mesopelagic creatures are disrupted, the carbon cycle weakens with it. The light trick of a 7-centimeter silverfish connects directly to the amount of CO2 in the air above your city. Researchers estimate the Twilight Zone fish population alone may remove up to 1 billion tons of carbon from shallow water each year by simply eating at the surface and dying at depth. 1 billion tons, quietly, every year, with no headline. Pull back one final time. Think about the original trick. A fish smaller than your finger, in a zone darker than most rooms at night, running a real-time optical calibration system in its skin, erasing its own shadow, matching both the brightness and the polarization of light from hundreds of meters above, while simultaneously regulating the carbon content of a planet's atmosphere. No central command, no conscious decision, no eyes on its belly, just